Listen here, smarty. Hey folks, happy Easter and Good Friday. Come to you on this Good Friday bearing Jamaican delicacies. And why, you might ask? Well, the supermarket I work in decided to get some of these in stock. And I don't know if you've ever come across Jamaican cheese in a tin, but I had before. The last time I had some Jamaican cheese was probably 2018 or 2019. And where I was living at the time in Canada, I'd drive into Calgary and buy a tin of this for probably $45, maybe $48 Canadian. And just this week, I've been away, come back and pop up and here at work in BC on the western side of Canada. And excuse my voice, but yeah, thanks to co-workers, I'm not too good at the moment. So I might have a sip of tea in between, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about tasty cheese, about Easter bun, and there's a few different types of spice bun that you can get, but Easter bun and cheese in Jamaican culture is a big thing, and it doesn't have to be all year, but it often is. I'll give you a bit of a history on Easter bun and how that ended up in Jamaica and what Jamaicans turned it into. Tasty cheese, and a bit of the history of tasty cheese and tariffs, and I'll eventually cut up this cheese, and it's a whole exercise of how you get your cheese out of your tin and what you do after it. So I'll do that, cut up some bun, and we'll have some bun and cheese. And hope you've already been having some bun and cheese, or you've already been yamming bun and cheese morning, noon and night. Let's get into it. So the history of bun in Jamaica comes pretty much thanks to the English and all the colonizers, and it dates back to pagan times where bakers would make things to offer to, say, the gods, but eventually the Christians got their hands on it and messed it up, decided to put a cross on it. And I don't know whether you've been used to it in Canada or Australia or wherever you are, but hot cross buns at Easter time. But yeah, it just used to be bun. But them little but Talua Jamaicans decided to put their own twist and improve it. So they decided to add some extra Guinness stout, some extra spices, fruit peel, raisins or sultanas, dried fruits to it, molasses, browning to give it colour, and nutmeg and allspice to give it that extra flavour, or give it that extra oomph. That's essentially the history of the bun, and then so you had quite a sweet product, and especially with the molasses. So what would balance the sweetness of the bun? The savoury or the saltiness of the cheese. That's one way of how you ended up with bun and cheese. What I'll go into now is I'll talk about the cheese and its history and some facts about that. Just one other thing with bun is you can find lots of good recipes online for making it, but in where I am in the Okanagan Valley in BC, you can't actually find bun in too many places, and bun is a big Easter thing. And how I sort of got all started on this is when I came to work and I spotted this at work, the tasty cheese. And I'm like, first question was, where's the bun? You can't have cheese without the bun. It's bun and cheese. But apparently work couldn't get any of the bun to go with the cheese. But thanks to Taste of Jamaica, or the restaurant in Colonial, which is about 45-minute drive from where I am, I'm able to get some bun. So got some two different types. So luckily I was able to make this video. Without the bun, there's no story to the cheese. So that's where things are at. And apologies again for my voice. This is going to be a real struggle, but I'm going to get this video done and out today for sure. Okay, so this was the first time that I'd actually seen cheese in a tin. This was quite new to me, coming from Australia and seeing it and thinking, Jamaica is a hot place. How are they producing cheese and in a tin? In, let's see, well, back 55 years ago, 1968, tasty cheese started being made in an old theatre in Kingston. And it's now operated by Dairy Industries, which is making tasty cheese in a tin, vacuum sealing, and even making spreadable cheese, which I'm sure is a whole lot better than Cheese Whiz that you can get in Canada. I'm sure is made by Kraft or someone full of chemicals. Interesting fact, I discovered that somewhere along the line, tasty cheese has New Zealand dairy in it, or what I thought was New Zealand dairy, but it's run by a partnership between Grace Kennedy company or conglomerate, and then also Fonterra. Now, Fonterra used to be called the New Zealand Dairy Board. So there's the interesting New Zealand link, and most Aussies don't know it, but like my family, part of my family is, half of them really is from New Zealand. I think my father's born in Australia, but my grandmother, his mother, was born in New Zealand. Most people, if you've had anything from Jamaica, you would have had a product from Jamaica that has a Grace brand on it. Grace has been very good, or Grace Kennedy, is sort of expanding and distributing Jamaican products around the world. And this agreement that was developed in '96 between the two companies as a joint venture is now running that. But what's a little bit of interesting history before that, in 1996, was that Jamaica used to have a thriving dairy industry with, plenty of fresh milk being made in Jamaica at the time. But they also had a 30 to 50% tariff on imported milk products, essentially dry milk powder from outside of Jamaica. But that was to protect their small industry. But then also a cheaper imported powdered milk came into the country that didn't need refrigeration. Lower income families were able to have milk that didn't require refrigeration. So it's like, if one person loses and others get more, maybe. Obviously, as a result of that, 4 years later, you get this joint venture. Is the money staying in Jamaica? Who knows? Grace Kennedy is a huge Jamaican company. It was actually started in 1922, just as an interesting fact. Now, before that, 96, joint venture between Grace Kennedy and Fonterra. In 1992 in Jamaica, the World Bank tied a carrot and stick together. That as part of getting a loan from the World Bank, or IMF at the time, Jamaica had to remove its tariffs on imported dairy products. Most of the dairy products now come into Jamaica from Europe, and the Netherlands is actually number one sort of importer of dairy products into Jamaica. It was interesting just trying to do a bit of history and find out, how is it that Jamaica's producing cheese in a tin? How much of it's being produced and then exported? There's something like 7 million tons of Jamaican cheese is exported each year, and that's for back figures from probably 2018, 2019. One of the interesting facts that I came across is where things are being exported to, and of course the US is number one by a few decimal points, then Canada, the rest of the Caribbean. But the odd ones were Mongolia and Japan, surprisingly enough, where, there's actually a couple of million tons goes to, not a couple, but I can't remember, but there's a huge proportion that goes to those two countries. They're probably the lowest on the list, but that was an odd one. I would have never thought, but obviously the little island, the Lickle but Talawa theme of producing cheese and exporting it around the world for the diaspora and for countries that need tin cheese, producing cheddar cheese. And if you go to Tastee's website, they've got quite a few recipes for using this cheese in omelettes, but for Jamaicans, the primary source is using it in bun and cheese. I wanted to get an idea of why this is so expensive. Back in 2018, I was paying like $45, maybe $48 a tin. This is the kilo tin. And when I saw it at work the other day, it's like 35 something. And of course I work for a company that has a head office, Sobeys, back in Nova Scotia. So this would be big in the east and possibly even in Alberta, but in BC, to see this turn up. And of course, without the bun, I'm thinking, what are you guys doing? But in my research, trying to find out more info, what was interesting is the export price of this cheese is around $9 or $10 a kilo. By the time it gets to us, with all the transport, mainly in Canada is the issue. But then, I'm paying probably $38, $40 with tax in Canada. That's the kind of inflation or prices that are added on. $36 is actually a pretty good price. I used to drive 3 hours to Calgary from where I lived in the mountains to an Indian store that stocked the Tastee cheese, and we'd get it whenever we could. Getting the bun was also a challenge then, so we'd often end up getting the smaller bun, but still have it with that. I think that's pretty much all of the history that, I've got of surprisingly how cheese ends up in a tin. I'm sure I've forgotten things, but just odd little backstories to, you know, something that would eventually lead me down. There's always a connection to Ghana, and I'm going to draw it here, but, you know, through connections to Jamaica, through Bun and Cheese, leads me back to things about Jamaica, which then, you know, in the Google or the YouTube rabbit hole leads me eventually to Ghana. And of course, Ghana keeps popping up, but let's not get distracted. I think I've covered it all here. You could probably even use this for mac and cheese. Now, mac and cheese is a big thing in Canada. Let me get on to Miss Lou's poem of Bun and Cheese, and then we'll get to open this up. That's a whole experience. So I made reference to the poem by the late Dr. Louise, known as Miss Lou, Louise Benneth Coverley. And I beg all Jamaicans who might stumble upon this video to go easy on me. I know it's not the full poem, but I've adapted it slightly to my situation, and wishing others a happy Easter on this Good Friday. So there's the poem Bun and Cheese. It was written in either 1949, I'd say probably then. Well, I couldn't find a specific date, but she wrote books in 1949 and a collection of poems in 83. The poem is titled Bun and Cheese, and I've adapted it slightly. But it starts out with Miss Marty being teased by some boys, and I hear Smarty. I've heard Smarty too much, and most Jamaicans will know a Smarty. Listen here, Smarty. So me say, listen here, Smarty. Them say from Good Friday morning, your jawbone no get ease. Morning, noon and night, bedtime use Nyamin, bun and cheese. Me no put pop on fire when me got bun and cheese. Easter time gonna come and go away, so let's nyam some bun and cheese. So let's get into chopping it up, and let me show you how to bust into a tin of tasty cheese, which is an experience in itself. And give you a little story about Jamaican women and knives and tins. And really, you're not much chop if you can't open a tin with a knife. When I say a knife, I mean a knife. But anyway, I'll show you. So let's get into that. Ready to get into nyamming some bun and cheese on this Good Friday? Let's get into this tin. Now, if you ever happen to find yourself a woman, a Jamaican woman, and you want to test out whether she'll feed you or not, let's see whether she can use a knife and open a tin of cheese. Now, I'm not going to, but apparently things get stuck in these tins. So there's lots of different ways that you can get these open, but I'm going to flip it on its head. I'm just going to poke a little bit of a hole, and I am going to use a knife, but this is one of my good knives, and I don't really want to wreck them. But there we go, we popped its seal. So that's the bottom of it, and there's two ways. Hopefully I haven't bent the tip of my good knife. I'm going to use a can opener, but sometimes if you don't have a can opener and you don't have a good one, you're going to get stuck. Alright, let's leave that one on, flip her over. One lid down. Let's see if we can get the other lid off. And she is a bit stuck. It's got paper around it. But let's see if we can. Nope. Even with tips and tricks, still didn't want to come out. As you can see, this is what the cheese looks like. It does have a protective sort of paper layer on it. I'm just going to keep that on until I can get it out. This is your tasty. There we go. Cheese coming. Come on. Starting to get cheese everywhere. Come on. And once you do have this out, what you do then is you wrap it in foil and freeze the bits that you don't want, so it lasts longer. Here we go. Look at that, nice and clean. Don't really need to go after the last bits, but it's definitely a unique flavour. Like I said, let's get the paper off it. Get the paper off the top and bottom. We've got that all out of the way. Okay, so we've got our cheese done and out. Best way is to just to split it up. Oops, that's a bit of muck off my knife. Okay. put those aside for later. And getting cheese everywhere. Let's get into our bun. So I'll open up this box of bun. So this is actually made in Jamaica. So it's come all the way to Canada. Would have come into Toronto. There's my loaf of bun. So it's come into Toronto most likely and then been shipped across the country. I don't know how much this loaf of bun would be back in Jamaica, or I haven't bought one in Toronto or Calgary in a long time, but this loaf of bun was probably, by the time I got it, I bought 2 of these and a little one, and it came to 41 Canadian dollars. So, you can just smell the fruit. Okay, it's a distinct flavour. So get a bit of cheese off there, and you know what I need? My bread knife. So we've got our cheese out, we've got our bread open. It's time to slice some up and make some bun and cheese without breaking it. It is a little bit sticky, this cheddar, this tasty cheddar cheese. I'm gonna slice on there. Let's make it last a bit. There we go. So there you have it, folks. I'm going to get in and yam some of this bun and cheese. Let me see if I can slice off the other end and take a photo. It's not really dry, but let's see if we can get some of this. So, like I say, happy Easter, happy Good Friday to all those Jamaicans living in Canada, probably away from family at the moment. But he's celebrating Jamaicans, them little but taloa Jamaicans all around the world, sharing their delicacies, their goodies, their culture, and giving loads of smiles. So I wish you all a happy Easter, and thanks for watching. Leave us a comment, give us a like, and subscribe if you want. I try and do more food related videos, but you know, this is specifically food and reminded me memories of having Jamaican cheese out of a tin. So I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know what you think, and happy Easter. So yam your bun and cheese on Good Friday and Easter Sunday. So if you run out, there's plenty of recipes on YouTube to find how to make your own bun, but it's getting your cheese is going to be the challenge. If you're in Canada, no problem. Even in Western Canada, you can still find some tasty cheese. Thanks very much, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye. And thanks all for putting up with my croaky voice. Didn't want to participate. Thanks to colleagues at work that wanted to make me sick. Anyway, we'll get some photos of this bun and cheese for do it for the gram, eh?